In your bio, you say that you're passionate about more dirt, sweat, and vegetables, getting those into people's lives. And I know you deal with that in your books. Can you explain to us what those three things, dirt, sweat, and vegetables, how they have to do with the gut and why they're good?
Sure. I was reading last year James Clear's fantastic book, Atomic Habits. I don't know if you guys have read it or have had him on, and was thinking about that and thinking about, he really focuses on doing these things consistently. And I was thinking about my ride or die. What are the things that really kind of sustain me and keep me healthy physically, emotionally, mentally? And it really has been this dirt, sweat, veg. So get outside in nature, get sweaty, and eat some vegetables. And, this morning it was a twofer because I went running outside in the trail, and I came back and had my green smoothie. I was like, done, dirt, sweat, veg, all done. And I don't get super prescriptive or specific about the dirt. Like, does it have to be outside in Rock Creek Park? Could it just be in my neighborhood? It's fine. Get outside. The same thing for the sweat. Am I running? Am I at my favorite yoga spot, down dog yoga? Am I at a CrossFit class? Doesn't matter. Move the body. And the same for vegetables. Blend them, saute them, broil, boil, get some in. And we have really clear and compelling data for some of these interventions. Of course, there's more that you can do in terms of health, but for me, these three are really essential. So for example, we have data from over 100 years ago from the Spanish flu epidemic that in the military, soldiers who recuperated outside in the fresh air had a lower mortality. In one study, 40% inside the hospital, 13% outside. And that's because of something called the open air factor, which is described as a germicidal constituent in the air. It's literally, we don't even know what it is, but we know that it can kill pathogens. So not only does being outside reduce transmissibility, we saw during the throes of the pandemic, outdoor events. So not only are you less likely to become infected outside, but if you are infected, your recovery can be enhanced by being outside.
During the pandemic, at least in Los Angeles, the houseless they thought that it would devastate the houseless community, but it didn't because they were outside.
That is so interesting. We've seen that in other parts of the world too. We've seen that in refugee camps in parts of Southeast Asia and so on, where people, same thing, like COVID ripped through and very, very low mortality. So very interesting that you saw that in Los Angeles. Yeah. So the outdoor air factor, so that's the, dirt. We know that exposure to soil microbes, other than that initial passage through our mother's birth canal, those of us who were fortunate enough to make that prophetic journey and getting the microbes from food grown in soil microbes are a huge contributor to the health of our microbiome. And we know that so many of us are spending all our time indoors. So if we live in cities, we're already at a disadvantage because as the glass and concrete increases, the amount of these healthy microbes typically decrease. We know from the Japanese, this habit of Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, is incredibly beneficial for lowering blood pressure, for improving mood, for improving feelings of well-being, for wound healing, and it turns out for recovering from viruses. So the dirt part is really clear. The sweat, we know that exercise is the most potent non-pharmacological intervention for our immune system. And regardless of whether we're losing weight or what we're doing, exercise is, I'm going to say it again, the most potent non-pharmacological intervention for our immune system. So I think that says it all right there. And then vegetables. We have data from the American Gut Project study in 2018, great nonprofit that studies the microbiome. And their 2018 study showed that regardless of what you call yourself, regardless of whether you're a vegan, a pescatarian, a lacto-ovarian, vegetarian, carnivore, flexitarian, 30 or more different plant foods per week was associated with a healthier, more diverse, more robust microbiome. And 10 or fewer plant foods per week was associated with a much less healthy microbiome. So I'm a big fan of Michael Pollan's book, In Defense of Food. And you guys remember the original version of the book. He has a bunch of lettuce on the cover and the bag going around it. And it says, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And that kind of sums up the whole book. Well, I would condense it down to eat more vegetables. And I think, even for some of my vegan patients who are eating a lot of shortcut foods or eating a lot of the animal replacement foods that are filled with a lot of ingredients, they're eating a lot of quick foods. There's not necessarily a lot of cooking going on. And sometimes they're not eating a lot of plants. So sometimes even for my vegan patients, I have to remind them that magic number of 30 is going to really get you to the finish line in terms of a healthier microbiome. We know that when healthy gut bacteria ferment plant fiber, they break it down to something called short-chain fatty acids. And these short-chain fatty acids like butyric acid, propionic acid are essential to maintaining a healthy gut lining and to guiding the immune system to that just right response where it's active enough to clear the virus, but not so active that now it's destroying normal tissue and you're ending up with respiratory distress, et cetera. So, sometimes I have to really try hard to make it more complex and scientific and somehow sexier than eat more vegetables. But eat more vegetables is really good medical advice.
And that's because the bacteria feeds on these vegetables and the good bacteria flourishes and we have more balance in our gut. Is that
exactly?
Correct?
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
so
exactly
fiber,
right.
Is it all down to fiber?
Fiber, yeah. So it's vegetables, but it's also what we call microbiota-accessible carbohydrates, MAC. So not like the makeup MAC, but like the microbes MAC. And so that includes, all those vegetables, the leafy greens, the hard vegetables like garlic, leeks, onion, that stuff is great. The legumes, lentils, other beans, whole grains, brown rice, oats, all of it. So it's really the full gamut.